Hey, and welcome to the next episode of Microsoft DevRadio. I'm your host, Jerry Nixon, with Darren May.
How you doing, Jerry?
Hey, Darren.
How's the brain?
Brain is on fire. Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard of a PWA?
I have.
I have also heard of a PWA. What does it stand for?
Progressive Web Application.
That's exactly right. Now, did you know that there's an easy way to build a PWA?
I do.
Now, you might be thinking of the PWA Builder, but did you know that it has changed?
That is what I think we should learn more about.
What we need is to have a PM on the team tell us all about it, and that's this episode of DevRadio. Hey, and welcome. This is DevRadio. I'm Jerry. This is Darren.
Hey.
And Justin Willis, your PM on the PAX Web team. Thanks for being on the show today.
Hello. How's it going?
Justin, tell us, who is Justin Willis?
So I'm just a dude who's on Twitter a lot talking about PWAs. So I'm a program manager on the web team, or the PAX Web team. So I'm working on PWA Builder currently. That's kind of my main focus. But I also work with the Edge team sometimes and do all kinds of web stuff here at Microsoft. So,
got it. So we want to talk to you about the new version of PWA Builder and what it means to developers, where you're headed, why it's changing, all of those things for sure. And let's start with just PWA. So a web developer has heard of PWA. They know everybody out there says it's a new cool sauce. What's the deal with PWAs, and why is it so appealing to developers?
So for a long time, and even back when I started on the web, which really wasn't that long ago, we were all building websites, right? But then there was this kind of thing of we want to build responsive web apps. So mobile became a thing, different size laptops, etc. And everyone wanted to build responsive web apps. And responsive web apps were basically websites that gave you some functionality and they looked good on multiple devices and stuff like that. But progressive web apps kind of take that a step farther, right? So progressive web apps give you some of these cool new APIs like service workers and web manifest, and they allow you to take those things and apply them to what is basically a responsive web app, and then it gains basically really cool powers from that. So with the service worker, it can work offline, which is a new thing in the web. Normally if you go to like Amazon.com or something like that and you don't have any internet, you're kind of out of luck. With service workers, you're able to give your users an offline experience too. So, no one loses internet connection on like the bus or something, and then, the Twitter app or something like that doesn't pull up. Like no one expects for a native app to just not work because they don't have any internet, right? But PWAs or service workers and PWAs give you that power, but you're still building a web app. Same thing with like manifests. So the web manifest is something that you can add to your web app, and that gives you these new superpowers of being able to like be installed to a device. So you can install it to your desktop or you can install it to your phone, and it opens up just like an app, like, any other native app on that device would. You can interact with it like an app. It doesn't have the browser bar at the top. It just opens up like a regular app. So it's pretty much a PWA is just a website that has some superpowers is kind of how I like to describe it.
And it starts to answer really what everybody complains about when they compare websites versus desktop applications, right? You're like, yeah, but you'll never be offline. Yeah, but what happens if? And all of a sudden we have an answer that really isn't all that bad. And PWAs aren't anything new. It's not like we're waiting for this emerging standard for someday we'll have a PWA. It's already pretty well established. Even the development patterns inside it are already pretty well established.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a ton of really cool people doing really awesome things with PWAs, Twitter, Pinterest, Starbucks, etc. All browsers now support PWAs, so no matter what browser you decide to use, Edge, Chrome, Firefox, etc., you can use PWAs on all those browsers. They work on all devices too, so like I can pull up Twitter PWA on my Pixel, and I can pull up the Twitter PWA on my Surface, and it's the same app, it works the same, works offline, etc., etc. But it's it's still just a web app at the end of the day. It's just a really nice web app, basically.
So say, I'm a web developer and I've got a web application. Why would I choose, say, PWA versus building an Electron app?
Yeah.
So that's actually good. So there's differing thoughts on this, right? But my kind of opinion on it is Electron is good for when you're trying to do things that are maybe specific to a certain device. So like say your app is only going to be used on certain devices and you really need access to certain functionality that device has. Electron allows you to kind of tap into the native layer of things. So you can tap into those kind of native APIs that may not be available on the web yet. But that also comes with a lot of kind of drawbacks, like you have to package basically an entire browser with your app, so the installs become huge, and a few other things, resource usage, because you might have like 3 versions of Chromium running at the same time basically. But Electron has a lot of good things about it, and it allows you to tap into some of those APIs that may not be available on the web yet. But PWAs, on the other hand, there's a ton of APIs that are available in the browser nowadays. So I would say unless you need something very specific, like you can even do Bluetooth and like MIDI and all kinds of really cool stuff on the web nowadays. So unless you need like specific APIs, I would pretty much always go for a PWA. It's just easier. Like Electron, you have to act like a native developer, right? And you have to like package your app and you have to ship that to some kind of store or host it somewhere where someone can download the exe. With a PWA, you just build websites like you always have. And you kind of rely on the browser to give the user that nice install experience. So yeah, Electron's great. PWAs are great. I just find that for most use cases nowadays, PWAs tend to cover that use case, and it's easier than trying to do like a native app or an Electron app or something like that.
So with a PWA, the magic is in the manifest to a certain extent. A custom file that you create that specifies a bunch of things.
Yep.
That's kind of complex to hand roll. So is there anything that we've got available to us to help create that?
Yeah, anything at all, Justin?
So that's kind of where like my pitch comes in, right? So PWA Builder. So like I said, the 2 kind of main things that make a PWA are manifest and a service worker. There's a lot of other stuff like a nice UI and stuff like that, but those are kind of the 2 main things you need to take your app or take your web app from like just a web app to a PWA. And PWA Builder is a PWA itself. So kind of like PWA Inception there, right? But you can use PWA Builder to put in the URL to your web app. You can use it to make a manifest with a really nice UI. You don't have to like sit there and like, put together some JSON. We'll generate it for you, and you can just change the change the entries to whatever you want to. The service worker, you can also use PWA Builder to choose a service worker. So instead of like having to write your own, and service workers are a pretty low-level API, so they are not that fun to write on your own. PWA Builder gives you some that we've already like taken the hard part of like writing, and you just get to choose which one you want, copy paste, and you're good to go. So.
Because in the end, the types of PWAs that developers are building, they really do fall into a set of categories that a lot of people are just building the same thing over and over again.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, like even just a manifest, right? Like if say you want to build like 4 different PWAs, do you really want to go through and like make your own manifest for each one of those or something like that? Or would you rather just plop in the URL to an app, hit the start button, and then it basically just gives you a manifest? I'd rather have the second part where I'm just given the manifest.
I'd rather have the second part. That's exactly
That's
right.
the wonder of tooling.
Now,
Exactly.
yeah, well, I mean, that's it, right? I mean, it's really straightforward to understand what a PWA is and why it's nice. But that doesn't mean it's simple, right? That doesn't mean you can just walk in and just knock it out with your eyes closed. So that's what's cool about the builder. First of all, I love the fact that it sounds like peanut butter when you say it. It's so hilarious. PWA Butter. This is version 2. What happened? We have version 1, which I think we all saw, last year or so. Now we have version 2. What's the difference between them? Why'd you switch?
Yep. So it's basically we're just kind of the web is expanding, right? So even if you just look at like last year to this year, last year you didn't really have like Bluetooth, for example, in the web. You could do it in Chrome, but it was like behind a flag, and you had to turn on the flag and stuff like that to do it. The world is different now. You can use web Bluetooth. It's there. There's the web is continually evolving, so we want to also evolve PWA Builder. So for a long time, PWA Builder, it's always giving you that you create a manifest and you create a service worker. But as I said before, that's like the basic steps you need to get to a PWA. But we kind of want to take users a little bit farther now. So that's where we've integrated features like the snippets, for example. So we have a whole new like feature store page on PWA Builder, and you can go there. There's a bunch of snippets that you choose from, and you can copy paste these snippets, and they enable you to do new functionality that you can do on the web nowadays. So for example, like we have an install button snippet, and it's literally just like 2 bits of code that you can copy from the app. You paste that into like an HTML file, and then it will give you an install button. Now that install button uses some new APIs in the web to allow you to install that app just from hitting that button, installing the app to your device from the browser. So it'll pop up like the browser UI that says, hey, do you want to install this app? You hit yes, and then it actually installs it from the browser to your device. So it's, things
not that it's secret sauce. You're just helping developers do what they all have to do anyway.
Exactly. So the whole point of, like you said, PWAs are kind of hard to build sometimes. Some of the APIs are kind of low level. And who wouldn't, I would much rather just copy paste code all day, right? Than than write all this code over and over again for every app that I need. And PWA Builder kind of lets you do that. So you can just go on, type in a URL, and you can copy paste the code you need, plop it into your app, and all of a sudden you have this new functionality. And it's all about just making it easier for developers.
So throwing my mind back a year or so ago, I seem to remember the big story about the first PWA Builder was the ability to package apps up and put them into the Microsoft Store.
Yep.
So what's changed now, moving from that sort of version to what was announced at the last build?
Yep. So we've been adding some new platforms. So with the old version of PWA Builder, it was more Windows focused. So we still had an Android platform at that time, but it was a pretty basic Android platform. And it was pretty well Windows focused. So it allowed you to package your PWA and put it into the store. So we had, store PWAs, like you can install Twitter from the store, Pinterest from the store. PWA Builder has always allowed you to do that. But kind of in this new world of like Microsoft 365, right, and supporting all devices and making sure that, our, your users, your app's users have a good experience on all devices, we've been kind of expanding that. So for example, now on the Android platform, we support TWAs. And I know that's another acronym, but it's Trusted Web Activities. So basically at just a very basic level, this allows you to take your PWA and put it into the Google Play Store. And it's not so with our old platform, it was a web view. So you had to, every time you wanted to update your PWA, it was a web view and you had to push an update and stuff like that to the Google Play Store. The Google Play Store is not bad, but if you ever mess with other stores like the App Store, Apple App Store, it's not fun to be trying to push updates all the time. When really with a web app, you could just push an update and it's on a web server and it's just there, right? So Trusted Web Activities, which we now support with PWA Builder, and allows you to do that. So you can push it to the Google Play Store once, and then since it's basically just a wrapper around your PWA, anytime you update your PWA, users who have that app installed to their phone will also get that same update.
So the content itself gets pulled down from a server somewhere that you get to control instead of shipping it with the application.
Yep. And the cool thing
How is that a trusted web activity? You never know what it's going to do.
So that's actually the cool thing. So this is just a standard thing that Google has built, right? But we're able to take advantage of it in PWA Builder. So there's a piece that you have to add. There's a little trusted, what do they call it? Trusted web something other. It's this little, and we have instructions in PWA Builder to allow you to do it, make it easy. But it's basically just this little bit that you have to put into your app, into the head of your PWA, and it sees that when it tries to pull the content into the the TWA container. And as long as it sees that and it looks right and it's verified and stuff, that's how it kind of verifies the identity of who you are trying to push updates to your app. So it's
the publisher is who's trusted, not the app that's trusted.
Yeah. So the publisher is who is trusted at this point. Yeah. So we enable, just like you could with Windows, you just put in the URL to your PWA, and now with just one extra button hit, you can package your app as a TWA and push that to the Google Play Store. We also have a new macOS platform now too, so you can deploy your PWA to macOS. So that wraps up your app. And I'm not an Apple developer, and I didn't work on the macOS platform, so don't really know too many specifics about how it works exactly. But it basically is just a web view that allows you to ship your PWA to macOS devices too. And we also have some other platforms coming too. So just keep an eye out on some of the links that I shared with y'all. We have some other platforms coming out soon that will enable you to put your PWA in even more places than you already can.
Okay, that's really cool. So the previous generation that went into the Microsoft Store, that was tied to Edge HTML, correct?
Yep.
And so obviously Edge is now moving towards Chromium. There's the Dev and the Canary builds and so on. What impact does that have on PWA Builder?
Oh,
Yeah, so it's not really like a direct impact on PWA Builder. It's more of like a strategy change for us. As far as Edge HTML goes and supporting the store PWA front, a lot of our partners that we work with get a lot of benefits from the store. They like being able to have their app in the store. So that's something that we're going to continue supporting with PWA Builder. In fact, we have a whole new improved UI for packaging your Windows app with PWA Builder 2.0. But we want to we're moving towards this more browser install experience and kind of lowering that. There's no more store friction. You just go to a URL and that's your app and you can just hit a button and get it. And we've emphasized that in the new version of PWA Builder. So you'll notice that instead of Windows being the main thing when you go to the publish page, our main thing now is just getting your service worker or manifest file downloaded so that you can add that to your app. And then push that to the store. So we still support Windows. The UI is still there. It's upgraded, but the UI is still there. It gives you the same package that it always has. You can still put that package in the Windows Store or Microsoft Store. Sorry. It's just that we're emphasizing kind of this new experience more. So it's not really a huge change for the app itself. It's more of just a strategy change.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What are some of the apps you've seen that are using it?
Yep. So one of my biggest favorite ones is Soundtrap. So Soundtrap is a PWA. They were a hosted web app for a long time. So they were a store PWA. Their PWA was in the Microsoft Store. And the reason they kind of did that was, so PWAs are all about web and standards and stuff like that, right? But there were things that the current stable Edge didn't support, like the web MIDI API. So instead of just saying, hey, we just can't support Windows, they started using our WinRT APIs that we allow people to use in their store PWAs. And they were using that for their MIDI access and doing all kinds of, basically the app allows you to create music together with people no matter wherever they are. So you could be in Denver and I'm here in Seattle and I can play guitar and you could sing, for example, and it would all be recorded and synced up in real time. And this is all done with web technologies. But yeah, so they were using some of the WinRT APIs to do it. But with the new version of Edge, we now support the web MIDI API, which gives you that kind of same low-level access to hardware that you used to get from the WinRT APIs, but that you can now get just with plain JavaScript just right in the browser. So one of their big moves was going from that hosted store PWA to now adopting this new thing of just being a PWA that's in the browser and you can install it from the browser. And they're using PWA Builder to do that. So for example, a thing that they kind of I wouldn't say struggled with, but something we all struggle with because the API is really low level is service workers. So service workers, the API is really low level. The documentation out there is pretty dry and not that great. There's a lot more resources for it now, but it's still a pretty hard thing to do. So they took advantage of PWA Builder to help give them a service worker that worked for their kind of offline experience they wanted to offer. And they also have been using PWA Builder for their manifests, and they are also helping us with some of the snippets too. So you'll if you go to preview.pwabuilder.com, you'll realize that, or you'll see that we also have a new web MIDI snippet in the feature store too. And that came directly from working with them. So now anyone can kind of tap into, if I have a MIDI interface for my guitar, I can plug that into my computer, open up a PWA, and start recording things right there. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, but yeah, they're using PWA Builder basically to make it easier to move towards being just a standards-based, in the browser PWA.
because it's cool that we were able to give them WinRT APIs in JavaScript so they could bridge that gap. But when they were able to roll those out and just use regular old APIs that are built in the browser, now all of a sudden they can even offer this to other platforms as well if they wanted to, and not make it specific to Windows.
Exactly. So like the same PWA that you can pull up on like by Surface, I could also pull it up on a MacBook, and that's just gonna work. And it's cool for like that kind of app, right? Where you're supposed to be like collaborating with people and stuff. You don't want everyone to have like a Windows computer. Like it'd be really lame if we wanted to make a song together, but I had a Windows computer and you had a Mac, and it just didn't, right? But
prior to the new standard allowing MIDI, I mean, we obviously supported it through JavaScript WinRT APIs.
Yep.
How did they do it? I wonder on Macs. You know what I mean? Is there a WinRT on Macs?
Yep, I'm assuming that's
there isn't a WinRT on Mac.
There's no WinRT on Mac.
That's right. So yeah, I'm not sure how they did it before, but now that they're just using like standard web APIs, I mean, I could have like a Linux laptop, right?
Single code base.
Yep.
Good to go.
Single code base. Yep. They use PWA Builder to make their service worker in like 2 seconds. Made it real easy for them to move over to this more like native browser experience.
Who's the user of PWA Builder? Is it the developer about to build a brand new PWA, or is it a developer who already has a PWA and they want to do something?
So I mean, we're obviously more focused on the second part right now, just because you have to give us like a URL to your web app for us to be able to generate like the manifest and things like that, and be able to like analyze your site. We also, with PWA Builder 2.0, we give you a little bit of a report card when you first put in your PWA 2. So like we look at your manifest, we look at your service worker, and we also look at some basic security things like HTTPS and stuff like that. And we give you kind of a score. So that way, instead of like the old version where you just went in once and you did it and you got your manifest and your service worker, and that was pretty much it, we now can like grade you on your service worker and tell you, hey, maybe you should look into doing this instead. This would help your app. So what was the question again?
Yeah, exactly. Is this for a developer that says greenfield or brownfield?
Yes. Yeah. So it's for developers. So it's mainly people who already have at least a web app and they're wanting to move to this PWA. But it's also for people who also already have PWAs, and with the report card feature, maybe they want to, for example, I had a side project a couple of weekends ago, and totally didn't realize that I had missed something on my manifest. So just using it as a test for PWA Builder, it popped up in the report card like, oh, I totally forgot to put my short title in my manifest. And it popped up on there, and I was able to go in and click on it, and it gave me my short title, and I was good to go after that. So it's
that's cool.
Yeah, so it's really for people who may just have a web app, or people who have a PWA but kind of want to take it further, like the snippets too. So
or they have an old manifest and they want to take advantage of new stuff.
Yeah, so if they already have a manifest and service worker, then that's where the new snippets and the features come in. So so I could then put in my install button and make my PWA just that little bit better. I could get geolocation if I need to, and do cool things based around location, all kinds of cool stuff that kind of take my PWA just a little bit farther every time.
As a web developer, are there any key sort of guidelines I should adopt when I'm building a web application with an eye to delivering it as a PWA? Are there some patterns that I can employ that would make it a better PWA citizen, or is it just a free-for-all and I could do pretty much anything?
That's a good question. I like that question. So, I mean, the truth of it is it is the web, right? So you can do pretty much anything you want. There's no like standard UI or anything like that. So, you could make your app look however you want to. But there are some like kind of standard best practices that I like to kind of follow, at least with the PWAs that I build. So one thing I like to remember is when you're building a PWA, that means that your user needs to be looking at that as an app and not just like a website, right? So there's a difference to me between a website like Wikipedia that just gives you, info and stuff right there, and you may visit it once or twice. Or something like that's an app that you're going to visit multiple times. It's going to be installed to the device potentially, something like that. And that's like a different mindset. So I try to think more like, even when I'm just like designing my UI, right? I try to think, okay, this is going to be an app to someone. I'm wanting this to be an app, not like a website. So you need to
Not
follow.
like a brochure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's
So
what you really mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I try to follow like those kind of normal UI standards that people expect from apps. So like on Android, most people expect there to be like a side menu of some sort, and that's normally where you can find like different pages in the app and stuff like that. So I like to follow this kind of like UI patterns that people expect already from applications. And there's also other things too, like with it being an app, there's just certain things you need to like, not even just UI, but also the offline experience too. So service workers give you the ability to have a very basic offline experience, but they also, because it's so low level, you can also, customize that offline experience to be whatever you want it to be. You can cache certain data and not cache, other data. And this gives you the ability to give a customized offline experience to users. That's something that I also like to think of as like a best practice for PWAs, is having a really rich offline experience. Because it's, if I have a user that's expecting it to be an app, right, and say that that's like a crucial app, I can't just tell them that like, hey, if your network is slow or you don't have any connection, you're just out of luck. So at that point, it's not really an app. It's more of just a web thing that I want to use but can't. So yeah,
it's an anchored web page.
Exactly. So I like to just think of it when I'm building a PWA. Okay, this is going to be an app, and then I kind of let that guide my thinking, especially around like UI and stuff. We've even at like past jobs that I've had, UI has always been really important, because we've had like users where if they're opening a PWA and it opens like an app, but if it still just looks like a normal website that they go to, they're going to think that that's like a low quality app, or someone just didn't feel like, they just wrapped their website and called it done. You really need, and that's where a lot of like the bad talk about the web comes, right? Like, oh, it's just a website. It doesn't look great. It doesn't look like a native app. It's slow, etc. So it's just those things that you kind of need to keep in mind. And you can do like fast, really nice looking, animated apps on the web today. It's just, you got to think about those kind of things when you're building a PWA. So just kind of a mind shift.
I think a lot of developers or just users use PWAs, and they may not even know they're using PWAs as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're so common. I know Twitter, of course, is a PWA.
Yep.
What are some other mainstream ones that might surprise people?
Yep. So Pinterest, they actually just released their PWA to the Microsoft Store. You can also, if you just pull up Pinterest.com and the new Edge, you can actually install it from the browser too, because it's just a PWA. So Pinterest is another one. I like coffee a lot. So Starbucks, they have a really nice PWA. That's pretty cool. Grubhub is another one that I also like food. So Grubhub, they I actually just I saw someone tweeting about it on Twitter like last week. But they have a PWA now. So if you go to grubhub.com, I have it on my phone actually. You can install it from, you get the install prompt on Android. And you can open, it opens like an app. So yeah, Pinterest, Starbucks, Grubhub, Soundtrap. Again, I really like Soundtrap.
Is Facebook a PWA? Is it?
So Facebook is not a PWA now.
No.
I've heard like rumors on Twitter and stuff that but it's not a PWA at this time. It's a pretty nice web app, but it's not a PWA.
Do you have a demo you could run through?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Justin, I can see your screen. What am I looking at?
Yep. So this is the preview version of PWA Builder. So I always like to show the preview version because it has all the latest changes, like changes that I even made this morning. Every time I commit to GitHub, it gets deployed to preview if I haven't broken anything. So this gives you all kind of the latest and greatest of what we have. So you can see this is the new homepage of PWA Builder. So you'll notice it looks pretty different compared to the old one. But we just wanted to modernize the UI and make it look a little bit more modern. So this is what it looks like now. So I'll put in Pinterest, for example. So you can see this is the new report card page, or hub page, we're kind of calling it. So you can see we're giving you now scores on each kind of important section of what we think makes a good PWA. So over here we have the manifest. We can see Pinterest does really good on their manifest. They have all kind of the standard things that we look for. Their service worker is also doing really, really well. The only thing they don't have is a push registration. And that's not needed for every app. So you can see we only take off 5 points for that because that's a pretty good score. And on security, they're HTTPS and all that good stuff. So they're good to go. So for example, say that there was something we wanted to change in our manifest, right? So like we wanted to change the name or something like that. So you can see over on the right, we have the editor, and I can go in and change this to my app, and it will update over here to my app. So I can use this to go in, like I used, like I was saying earlier, I used this a couple of weekends ago to fix the manifest on my site. So now I have the manifest. I can, click done and keep going if I want to. I could also just copy it. I can go in here, images, all the good stuff that you've always been able to do. So go back. You can also still do service workers. So we give you a bunch of different service workers you can choose from. As you can see, this is what I was talking about earlier. There's a lot of code that goes into just creating like even a pretty basic service worker, which is why we give you the option just to, I'd much rather just come in and copy paste some stuff into my site and call it done.
Yeah.
So
by the way, this is important to point out that the PWA Builder is not a framework that you're adding. This is just like a Kickstarter to help you get to where you need to be and give you the code to copy in. You can manipulate this code if you wanted it not to be exactly like this. It doesn't matter because in the end, you're just using the regular standard.
Yep, exactly. It's just, standard JavaScript to just standard APIs. And, even like Soundtrap, for example, they've, started off with one of these service workers, but they've, since then kind of customized it to their own. And since it's just JavaScript, they were able to just, start editing and add in their own custom logic. I will also go real quick to the build section. So as you can see, we still have the same, Windows packages that you've always been able to. You can either generate, one that you want to submit to the store, or you can download a side-loadable version. Otherwise, we also enable you to just download your manifest and service worker if you want, to just deploy like a standard PWA. Here we can see the new trusted web activity package that we have, the Mac OS package, the iOS package, etc. So this enables you, take your PWA even farther now to all these different app stores and stuff like that. The other cool thing is, as you can see probably at the top there, we had the install PWA Builder button. So that actually uses one of the snippets, which I'll show it here in a second, to install the app. But as you can see, this is just something that's just, I'm just using APIs that are built into the browser here. It's not going to pop up. Nope. We could show it over here anyway. So this is what it would look like. And you can, install this app to my device, and you'll see here that it then opens up like a regular app. So I think that's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very cool. So this is the dev version of Edge, so I guess it's not going to show my icon down there, but all this stuff is pretty early. But yeah, so you can see like now it's like open like an app, right? Like I can minimize it, I can maximize it. It's all there. It'll show up over here too. So like I can type in PWA Builder if I could spell right. That's not going to work today either. But you can see it like shows up in my apps and stuff like that. And it's down here in my taskbar. I could pin it to my taskbar, all that good stuff. And that's just using one of the snippets.
Pretty compelling, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is really nice.
Thank you. I think it's pretty cool. I am biased, obviously, but I think it's cool.
Well, you've got Jerry, who's a desktop guy, thinking, hey, you know what? I can see why this works.
Yeah, I can see why you could do this. It's such a inexpensive effort.
Oh yeah, it's like I got the install experience for free, basically, right? Like I didn't have to make this app bar up here. I didn't have to like, do anything special to get this. I just copied and pasted some code from here. So you can see here, this is our new features page. So this is all about taking that PWA that you might have already built, but just enabling you to take it a little bit farther. So we have like graph authentication. So you can tie into the Microsoft Graph API. And enable users to again then get a login experience, and you can use the token that you get there from there to tie into all the other cool things that the Microsoft Graph allows you to do. Here's the install your PWA snippet. So as you can see, it's just literally 2 little bits of code that I have to copy. Here's some HTML, here's some JavaScript. I copy that, plop it into my site, and then I get that kind of experience that I just showed y'all, all after just like literally copying code. Again, you can share, like, if you want to share content. So say like I had say I was making like I don't know, like a pictures app, something like Instagram or something like that. I could go in here, copy paste some code, and this is going to allow me to share content on the web. So it just uses the web share API when you're running in a browser. And if you're running in a Windows Store PWA, then it will use the WinRT APIs. But like, this is all code that I would have had to wrote myself, and I can just get it within just a couple of seconds just by copying. I can
It's
also
funny because having snippets like that are almost better than documentation sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. I totally agree with that. So yeah, this is the new feature store. So it's, yeah, like I said, it's all about just enabling you to kind of take your PWA just a little bit farther in a really easy way.
That's pretty cool, Justin. It must take a lot of guys to build this. Is this all internal, or is this an open source project?
Yep. So it is open source. So I will say my team is pretty small. It's me and a designer, pretty much, that are working on this. So it's just 2 people, pretty much. We also have, I should give a shout out to Justin Liu too. He's another Justin, pretty cool name, right? But he's also been helping with the design and stuff like that too. But yeah, it's just me, my designer, Toby Fitch, and then Justin Liu has been helping with some design too. But it is an open source project too. So it's on GitHub. I shared the links with y'all. Anyone can go and contribute to the app. People have been opening issues. That also helps too. We'll take in issues, and that helps improve the PWA. There's a lot of times when you're just developing and you're focused on certain things that you may lose sight of other like issues that are causing things in the app to go wrong. And having people testing it and opening issues and stuff is really, really helpful. We've also had some pretty cool PRs come in since it's open source and anyone can contribute who wants to. So we've had people from Google, Samsung, which has a little bit to do with the new platform we're working on, which I'm not going to discuss here. But just keep an eye on all things PWA Builder and you will see it. But yeah, so because it's open source, anyone can contribute. We've had some really great contributions. I try, it is basically just me and watching the GitHub repo. So if sometimes it takes me a minute to get to people's PRs and stuff, but it's really been a really huge help for it to be open source and have people opening issues and PRs and stuff like that. It makes it a much more
cool when open source actually works. Like it's pretty sweet
when people help, rather than sit there and just say, "Hey, you're doing it wrong."
Well, yeah, that's right.
Exactly. And hey, if anyone wants to open an issue with feedback like that too, like that's still valuable feedback at the end of the day.
Well, that's a fair point. Also, going through and doing code review on a PR is a labor of love in a lot of ways because somebody has done so much work for you. It's awesome, really.
Yep. Oh yeah,
see them investigate or invest into you.
Oh yeah. No, I get excited every time I open up the GitHub page and there's a new PR, because that means that's like code that I didn't have to write, right?
Yeah.
And that's like exactly time that someone else has put into it. That's like another set of eyes. That's potentially making the app more inclusive because people from all different walks of life can contribute to the app and improve it and all that good stuff. So yeah,
it's cool.
Microsoft.
So usually
it's open source.
Justin, usually I'd ask you like, when is this coming out of beta and when can developers start to use it? But the reality is, it's not a framework. It's just a thing that helps build this out for you. And so you could use it today and feel pretty confident. And if there is something that needs to be changed, just change it. I mean, it's just generating manifesting some code for you that you can use.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a PWA too. So like, we don't have like version numbers and stuff really, right? It's just, we deploy things as we fix things and we add things as we, add things. So yeah, it's ready to use today. Like I said, we have big partners like Soundtrap using it. And it's just like you said, it's just generating stuff. So you can go in and customize your manifest as much as you want still. That's a big thing. I don't like tying developers into, you have to do it this way or it's not going to work.
Right.
We're all just using like, web standard stuff. So it's all customizable and you can, do whatever you want to with it.
Pretty cool, man.
Excellent.
Good job with this.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, if you're a developer and you're thinking about writing your own PWA and managing your own manifest, why not start where it's a little bit easier with the PWA Builder at pwabuilder.com, courtesy of Justin Willis.
Yep.
Thanks for being on the show, man.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank y'all.